I have us on the record.
Thank you. Good morning. This is the August 17th, 2023 meeting of the Syracuse Board of Review. This hearing is being held via video conference call, WebEx, at the following locations: Hughes State Office Building, main hearing room, first floor, 333 East Washington Street, Syracuse, New York, 13202. And New York State Department of State, 1 Commerce Plaza, conference room 1135, 99 Washington Ave, Albany, New York, 12231. The time now is 9:33 and this hearing is officially open. The members of the board are present for this first hearing. Is Andrew Garlock, who's on my far right, Jeffrey Hinderleiter on my right, Jacqueline Coons, who is remote from the Department of State conference room, and from the Department of State, Neil Collier is here. My name is C. Thomas Parsons. I'm chairman of the board. Gail Swistak is recused herself from this first case and is not present in the room. We will now hear the scheduled petitions. When you speak, please address the board and give your name, title, and legal address so that our court reporter can have all the information requested. We may have to stop from time to consult with our technical staff. When making comments to the board, please provide a descriptive narrative on the matters referring to your exhibits to enable the court reporter to enter these into the record. It should be noted, if you brought any additional drawings that you want to refer to that are not previously presented to the board electronically, you'll have to make us aware of that, and so we can enter them into the record and give them an exhibit number. So we'll now move to our first hearing, which is we're reopening the hearing in the matter of Syracuse University Lally Athletics Complex, petition number 0223-0336. And the applicant is Code Red Consultants. We have a representative. Speak your name and your address for the court reporter.
Good morning to the board. My name is Tom Weirs. I'm with Gensler at 2020 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. 2006.
Good morning, Josh Apollina's. I'm with Code Red Consultants. And we're at 154 Turnpike Road, Suite 200 in Southborough, Massachusetts, 01772.
Thank you. So when we left, we were looking for some additional information about futures of your project. The board provided you some comments, some observations, and I believe you received a communication through Mr. Titulio that came from board members, for myself, direct for the board members, with the questions we had following up our last hearing. So go ahead and make your presentation relative to those questions and changes from your last presentation.
Absolutely. We'll go through those comments and anything else that you may have questions about or further clarifications. The first comment that was received was regarding the master plan of the overall complex. This was provided in Exhibit 4 in our resubmission to you. It's the conceptual implementation strategy showing the next, or the overall 6 phases of the master plan. It's noted that this is conceptual. Nothing's been approved in zoning or been funded yet. And there's no timeline associated with it, but this does show the overall plan for the building with potential future additions and renovations. So it's noted that we have heard the concerns of this addition, and we'll factor in all concerns of fire separation and sprinklers at the time of the future projects. Okay. The next concern or comment that was received was sprinklering of the existing building. In figure 3 of Exhibit 1, it shows the existing sprinkler coverage of the overall facility. We have conducted a survey of the existing sprinkler coverage as of last week, and we are going to sprinkler the remainder of the building on this side of the field house. So you can see that in figure 5. The remainder of buildings A and B will be sprinklered as part of this project. The third comment received was the fire separation between the proposed infill building and the adjacent field house. So we evaluated this again, and we are proposing a 2-hour double firewall at that location. We are going to construct a firewall inside the field house to provide the separation from that side. Then structurally independent is the infill area that we are proposing that will also have a 2-hour firewall constructed as part of that building. And in figure 12, this is further shown in the section diagram. There is a horizontal assembly associated with that at the roof. That is a 2-hour assembly to provide a 2-hour separation between new and existing. And with those 3 things, I believe we addressed all the comments from the board into discussing any questions you may have.
All board. Jackie, do you have any comments for the
Not
applicant?
not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Garlock?
Yes, I had a question in regards to the conceptual implementation 3D here. I see a phase 2 here with football strength and conditioning. Is there a timeline for that and the other phase 2 piece of the Olympic strength and conditioning? Are those going to be proposed to be completely separated? Because I think, especially the football strength and conditioning, we're going to be looking at, I think, very similar issues with the adjacency to the field house and the firewall separation and continuing to add to the fire area of the existing building. So I'm just curious as to the plans for maintaining proper firewall separations for those future phases.
Right. So this is, as noted, as conceptual. There are no further developments in plan for that, but we note that fire separation is the most important for those future additions. We'll have to evaluate it very closely at that time and factor that into the space planning efforts and everything at that time. But to provide a full separation is the intent.
So nothing other than sort of the blocks of the.
Yeah, but there's
no
nothing
funding
right
for
now.
any of these projects, so they could change. The conceptual diagram could change. It's just this is what had been established to this point.
And a large donor may come up for, phase 2 rather than phase 1 next, or, the phasing could potentially change based on funding.
I think the important thing to note is that the university understands the concern about this fire separation and it would be able to get rid of it.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing whoever's speaking.
I think the important thing to note is that the university understands the expectation of the city as well as the state board and would handle the fire separation differently moving forward and have a more prescriptively code compliant approach based on the exact design that gets implemented at later phases. So I don't think that they're looking to come back and continue to request extensions of the variance.
All right, that was my concern, that there's that understanding that future additions that we don't want to incrementally keep adding to the existing fire area through phases.
Mr. Blair?
I appreciate the applicant's efforts in taking to heart what we asked and looking at it hard. I have no further questions or comments.
The only question I look at phase 4, is the university at some point looking at sprinkling the field house? Is that in any plans? Not necessarily related to this one, but I'm trying to understand the direction. As we talk about firewalls, I'm looking at fire protectors.
Yeah.
So, Josh.
I guess I would answer the question and say that the university understands that in order to be code compliant, depending on the scope of work that they do in phase 4, if it falls into a level 2 or level 3 alteration in accordance with the state existing building code, that we would go back and sprinkler that building.
Okay.
I don't,
Okay.
without understanding the exact scope, we can't say they're absolutely going to do it, but I know that if code requires it, they certainly would do it.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Are we all set with the applicants? Syracuse City Building Official. If you have any comments, if you don't, we can move on. It's up to you. Whatever you're. Come on forward then. State your name and your address.
For now. Brian Thompson. Current address is 201 East Washington Street, 101, Syracuse, New York, 13202. Just like to also note for the record that we are moving next week. So,
Okay.
I have a question with regard to figure 12 in the applicant's petition for exhibit 1. The walls indicated in red are both specified as a firewall, as well as the wall indicated in green. Question for the upper half of the higher of the two, the second level of the red firewall and all of the green firewall has to do with continuity and structural independence. And is that intended to be a firewall or a fire barrier?
All right. Just speak your name so that the
It's Josh Appolinas from Code Red Consultants again. So we did note on in item 3 under section 1.4 of exhibit 1 that we're meeting the intent of NFPA 221 for a double firewall, and that each 2-hour fire resistance rated, continuous structure is structurally independent from one another, but we're not constructing the upper portion of the wall on the infill side as structurally independent. So it is sitting on the 2-hour resistance rated horizontal assembly, and that was noted in item 3. So it's more about what the intent is, in that if the field house structure fell down, the green wall in figure 12 would go with it, or if the infill structure fell down, the red, the blue, and the red walls and the blue horizontal assembly would go with it. But in either case, the other 2-hour fire resistance rated assembly would remain structurally.
This is Brian Thompson, City of Syracuse. What happens to the other portion of the field house structure that's on the other side of the green wall? I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but if we say it's a firewall and it gets approved as a firewall, then is that really structurally independent if what's on the other side of that wall will no longer remain? And that has to do with that whole roof overhang and reinforcing. If it's a fire barrier, the city doesn't. I don't. If it's just a fire barrier,
come forward, thanks.
If it's a fire barrier, I don't disagree with. I still would support approving the variance, as we've said before, but I don't know how that would play in code-wise to say this needs to be a firewall, yet have structures on the opposite side of the firewall, whereas,
I think the question may be the green wall that you've drawn, they're going to be visibly part of the current exterior wall of the field house?
Yes.
Does that help?
I guess how would if that canopy falls, if the field house, again, if you bulldoze the field house, what happens to the canopy? Because it clearly doesn't appear to be supported by the fire, maybe it would be supported by the firewall, or is this like a structural?
It's structurally attached to the field house building.
Right.
Infill, if that's what you're asking.
Previous drawing, I think as I'm looking at the photos of the exterior of the dome exterior, there are angular braces that come back and attach to the columns. Where is this firewall going? On the outside of the columns or on the inside of the columns?
It would go on the inside of the column. So
Okay,
So the thought process there is it's protecting fire from spreading from the interior of the field house to the exterior. So it's on the inside portion of the building. And then likewise with the 2-hour fire wall barrier at the new infill area, it's preventing fire from reaching those cross spaces.
so the red fire wall, the vertical, the 1-story vertical, is that on the inside of the columns or on the outside of the columns of the field house?
That's outboard, so it's in between the columns and then kind of it wraps around the columns, if you will. So there's a full concept fire separation and there's an expansion joint there to keep it structurally independent.
So to make sure I understand, you're going to be wrapping I think they're concrete buttresses or concrete columns. They'll be wrapped with a 2-hour firewall around those, so you'll be building into those bays in between the columns. But you'll have a continuous 2-hour firewall around all that.
And obviously the support structures coming from the overhang that go back to the concrete columns would be outboard. They'll be above, okay. So they're above and, okay, I understand.
And you might see the ring beam at the bottom of those braces.
Yep.
The intent is to have our roofing come in below that and flash behind that and not be attached to that.
Okay, does that make, what?
I guess, so firewall's supposed to be structurally independent on either side. It's also supposed to run from the foundation continuously up, with the only exception in the code being for podium style construction where it can stop at that podium. So for the upper portion of the red wall that's offset from the lower portion of the red wall, I think it's a fire barrier and not a fire wall. And again, city doesn't object to it being a fire barrier, but if it's going to be
Semantically, you want us to acknowledge that it's a barrier, not a wall.
Well, I don't want you to acknowledge that. I would like it acknowledged because it would be very hard to enforce it or clarified, because it's very hard to enforce this if those are firewalls and then all of a sudden I have part of the field house structure on both sides of the green firewall. If that makes sense.
I don't think we take exception to redefining the upper portion of the 2-hour continuous rated structure as a fire barrier, and then we'll continue to classify the lower portion as a fire wall, as it's structurally independent and would stay standing and it's not sitting on horizontal assembly. So we could, update figure 12 to have a call out of the lower portion to say, 2-hour fire wall, and then the blue 2-hour horizontal assembly, and then the upper portion next to the mechanical space as a 2-hour fire barrier, because that would be easier for the city to enforce. And still, it provides the level of protection that we had discussed with the board, and it provides a level of protection that's within the intent to the prescriptive codes.
But it's not a firewall, right? Yeah, it's definitely not a firewall, even though it's.
Okay, yeah, and then if it gets conditioned, if this variance is issued with the condition that that be a firewall, then we're back here in September.
And you're putting a wall right down below it on the first floor.
Correct. So I believe it to be basically fire barriers. The city has no objection to it being fire barriers. Make it a lot easier. It's a lot of zigzagging for what's supposed to be a straight continuous wall.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do need to clarify for the record that it is really a fire barrier. And I think it's a good point to make for future work that there'd be a recommendation that that wall actually continue all the way down as a true firewall with its own foundation at that sort of location around the field house. So I think if the expansion happens around the field house as in proposed in the block diagram, phase 4, that wall be more of a traditional firewall.
I think, yeah, I think the nuances here, going to Josh had mentioned, Paulino mentioned, if you look at the definition of firewall, you could interpret this as a firewall, though when you get into the code and look at what the requirements of firewall, that's where we may get into the nuances of this. So I think we'll have to take a look at the definitions, figure out what we're going to call it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And we just may call it a firewall, but without some aspects of a firewall. Maybe that's the term. Because I'm afraid if we go with this and say this is a fire petition, this is sufficient, next time somebody comes and says, well, even though it's one case doesn't relate to the other, we do want to try to apply consistency across. So we may give some latitude on the firm guidelines of what a firewall is. But as I read the definition, I understand where you're going with it. You might have achieved it, but we'll talk about that.
The city appreciates.
Not a problem. I understand your concern.
The city remains supportive of.
Okay, thank you. All right, before we move on into take a break for deliberation, let me ask, are there any other members of the public or people who would like to make additional comments relative to this case? Okay, city's had their last. Anybody from the board? Ms. Coons, do you have any additional comments or questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Garlock? So, nope. Okay, we are going to take a recess while we do some deliberation on this. Come up with our language for the case. We can go off the record.
Okay, I have us off the record.
I mean, I didn't write down, was it probably down the
Thank you. We are now reopening the hearing on petition number 2023-0336 regarding the John A. Lally Athletics Complex, 1301 East Colvin Street, Syracuse, New York, Onondaga County, New York State. The applicant is Jeffrey Paris of Code Red Consultants for Syracuse University. Okay, I don't think we have any questions, so be seated. Okay, and do we have a motion on this petition?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Garlick?
With respect to the petition of Jeffrey Paris of Code Red Consultants for Syracuse University, petition number 2023-0336, requesting a variance to the following sections of the Uniform Code. Petition to a variance seeking relief for exceeding the allowable area for the demolition and reconstruction of the football operations section of the John A. Lally Athletics Complex, construction type 1A and 2B, 2 stories in height, with a total of 176,870 square feet, located at 1301 East Colvin Street, City of Syracuse, County of Onondaga, New York State. Public notice was published in the New York State Register's July 12, 2023 issue. petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NY CRR Part 1227, the existing building code of New York, section 1102.2, area limitations, which states, an addition shall not increase the area of an existing building beyond that permitted under the applicable provisions, Chapter 5 of the Building Code of New York State, for new buildings unless fire separation is required by the Building Code of New York State is provided. Petitioner seeking relief for a variance to exceeding the allowable area for the demolition and construction of a new addition without including fire separations as required by code. The board makes the following findings. 1, subject petition pertains to a variance for the demolition and reconstruction of the football operations section of the John A. Lally Athletics Complex located at 1301 East Colvin Street, City of Syracuse, County of Onondaga, New York State. 2, the subject building of the petition is properly classified per 19 NY CRR Part 1221, Section 602.2, types 1 and 2 construction are those types of construction in which the building elements listed in Table 601 are of non-combustible materials, except as permitted in Section 603 and elsewhere. 3, subject building of the petition is properly classified per 19 NY CRR Part 1221, Section 303.4, Assembly Group A3 occupancy includes assembly uses intended for worship, recreation, or amusement, and other assembly uses not classified elsewhere in Group A, including but not limited to gymnasiums without spectator seating. Section 303.5, Assembly Group A4 includes assembly uses intended for viewing of indoor sporting events and activities with spectator seating, including but not limited to arenas. And Section 304.1, Business Group B occupancy includes, among others, the use of a building or structure or portion thereof for office, professional, or service type transactions, including storage of records and accounts. Business occupancy shall include, but not be limited to, the following: food processing establishments and commercial kitchens not associated with restaurants, cafeterias and similar dining facilities not more than 2,500 square feet in area, training and skill development not in a school or academic program. This shall include but not be limited to tutoring centers, martial arts studios, gymnastics, and similar uses regardless of the ages served, and were not classified as a Group A occupancy. 4, petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that the existing building area, excluding the Carmelo Anthony Center, is roughly 173,400 square feet. As part of the Phase 1A renovation, a firewall was retroactively installed between the Simmons Wing, and as part of this Phase 1 project, a portion of the football building is being demolished and rebuilt. At the completion of the renovation, the building area, excluding areas separated with firewalls, will be approximately 167,437 square feet. This is a net reduction in the overall area of the non-compliant building portion, which is an improvement from the existing conditions. 5, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that NFPA 13 requires a minimum sprinkler design density of light hazard for the additions. The petitioner proposes that the system is changed from light hazard to ordinary hazard Group 1, which results in a 50% increase of the sprinkler density in the new additions. 6, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that the additions will be constructed with Type 1B construction, which is the minimum construction type required for a building of this size. 7, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that a 2-hour separation is provided between the new additions and the areas of the existing building that are not provided with sprinkler protection as required for fire areas. 8, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that the design team thoroughly evaluated options for creating separation between the new construction and the existing building. 2 approaches were considered: constructing a single structurally independent firewall or constructing a double firewall adjacent to the existing structure. However, extensive analysis revealed significant challenges in implementing firewalls in either scenario due to the existing structural conditions and the depth of certain existing footings, particularly the existing stair location. The petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that specifically at the field house, achieving the required vertical continuity for a firewall proved challenging due to the presence of exterior columns and bracing. To ensure continuity, a portion of the roof and bracing would need to be removed, resulting in excessive and unreasonable economic burden on the project. See figures 6 through 11 for the section views as identified in the section key plan in figure 5. 10, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1 that upgrading the construction type of the existing building from type 2B to 1B would be physically impractical and a financial hardship to the owner, given the majority of these areas are not included in the current scope of work. 11, petitioner proposes in Exhibit 1 that the design team made the decision to design a structurally independent firewall set back from the existing structure. This approach allows for a consistent footing for the firewall and facilitates better integration into the overall building layout. 12, the petitioner has provided in Exhibit 1 a total of 13 figures representing proposed project structures. 13, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1 the conclusion that the variance being requested is to allow the construction of 2 additions to an existing building that exceeds the area limitations for new construction. Separating the additions with firewalls or upgrading the construction type of the building creates a hardship for the owner given the costs and modifications required to create a prescriptively compliant building. Through constructing firewall separations of 2 additions, design team is proposing multiple mitigation strategies that include constructing the addition with type 1B construction, increasing the sprinkler design density in addition from light hazard to ordinary hazard group 1, and providing 2-hour separations between the addition and non-sprinkler areas of the building. The applicant is providing a combination of 2-hour rated firewalls, fire barriers, and horizontal barriers that are structurally independent. 14, the City of Syracuse Code Office requests that one of the conditions is that an automatic sprinkler system be extended throughout any area in which work subject for a building permit occurs in the entirety, contiguous structure regardless of the level of code alteration or code methodology utilized, with the exception that the requirement would not apply to work limited to electrical or mechanical systems. 15, the petitioner states in Exhibit 1, Section 2.3, Item 2, that they will be providing an automatic sprinkler system to protect all portions of the building that are on the planned east side of the field house. See Figure 5 for the proposed sprinkler coverage for the entire building. 15, the local code official has been consulted in this matter with the proposed condition would support the granting of the variance under Part 1205. And 17, the granting of this variance will not substantially adversely affect the code provisions for safety, health, and security of it. In accordance with the above findings, the board finds that in the case before it, strict compliance with the provisions in the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention Building Code would entail practical difficulties and unnecessary hardship, and would be unnecessary in light of alternatives which ensure the achievement of the code's intended objectives, in light of alternatives which, without a loss in the level of safety, achieve the objective more efficiently, effectively, or economically. Therefore, I move that the above petition be granted. Furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of the board is limited to specific building and application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give applied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. So,
Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Untitled seconds. Poll the board. Ms. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Untitled?
Aye.
Mr. Garlock?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. 4 ayes, no nays. Variance is granted. Well, thank you very much.
One moment. This is a court reporter. I need the spellings of the gentleman's names, please.
Okay,
I don't need Mr. Thompson's spelling. I do have his.
This is Mr. Apollina's, and it's spelled Apolleinis.
And first name?
Joshua, Joshua.
Okay, one moment. And the other gentleman?
Hi, my name is Tom Weers, Tomwerres.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
okay. Very good. Somebody would just want to go get Gail? Take care.
They're next? Yeah. I go out there.
Just a moment, we're going on to our second hearing, which is in the matter of News Gate Monastery. So, a moment, we're waiting for Ms. Swistak to join the board. And for the record, Ms. Jacqueline Coons will be recusing herself from this hearing and will be departing the hearing room in Albany. She's identified a potential conflict of interest.
They still make cheesecakes?
Yes. The nuns do.
Those are good cheesecakes.
The brothers do the German shepherds.
The dog beds too?
Yeah. Nice place.
Okay,
Alright, where do I go hang out there anywhere?
Do you want to go next door?
Wherever.
In the lunchroom?
Sure. Sorry, Bob.
sure.
I'm sure you can do it on your own.
I'm
just here.
Okay, so for the record, Ms. Gail Swistek has joined the board on this hearing, and Ms. Jacqueline Coons will not hear this case as she has identified a potential conflict of interest and has departed the hearing room in Albany. So for the members of the board, to my far right is Andrew Garlock, to my immediate right is Jeffrey Enderleiter, and to my left is Gail Swistak. We're now moving on to the second hearing, which is in the matter of Newscape Monastery, petition number 2023-0344. This is a variance appeal for building located at 250-273 Newscape Lane, in the town of White Creek, Washington County, zip code 12886, and the property name is Newscape Monastery. The petitioner is R. Scott Lamont from Lamont Architects LLP, 12 Excelsior Ave, Troy, New York. Do we have the applicant or the petitioner?
Yes, I'm here. Scott Lamon from Lamon Architects.
Okay, could you just spell your last name for the court reporter?
Yes, it's L-A, M as in Mary, M as in Mary, O as in Oscar, and N as in Nancy, Lamon.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're appealing the code official's determination, and then if the appeal is not successful, you're asking for a variance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So go ahead and explain the situation to us. We do have your application and the drawings, but it's good to hear from the applicant directly.
Okay. Well, we received a building permit last September. We got a permit. We proceeded. We went through the construction about 9 or 10 months. And the code official, John Graham, had cited section 702.5 of the existing building code of New York State 2020. And the issue is we replaced windows. We took out existing windows. They were nominally about a 4x4 opening. And we replaced 2 casement windows with 2 double hung windows. And feel that we meet the section 702.5 of the code. In determining our code compliance with the existing building code, under chapter 3, the existing building code gives us 3 allowances for meeting the code. Under 301.31 is the prescriptive compliance method. 301.32 is the work area compliance method. And the third option is 301.33, which is the performance compliance method. We chose the work compliance method, which is 301.32. So that was on our construction documents in the exhibits there that we sent out. So what late in the game came this section 705.2 from the code official, saying that our new double hung windows that we put in the existing opening without modifying them, which is allowed by 702.5, that our clear opening dimension doesn't meet that section of the code. In his backup for that, he attempts to tie it to section, let's see here. Section 505.3, which is under the prescriptive compliance method, which is a little more specific as to the replacement window requirements. But when you're in the code under 301.3, when you're selecting your compliance method, it specifically says in 301.3, once you select your compliance method, and we selected the work area compliance method, it shall not be applied in combination with each other. So we cannot go back and forth between the 3 different compliance methods. So I wanted to point that out, since that was on the code official's code enforcement official variance questionnaire, which is under item number 14 there. So that's kind of the short history of where we're at right now. I don't know if I can add any more at this point, or maybe you have some questions for us here.
Okay. Since this is an appeal, let me ask the board any questions for the petitioner, because I'm going to ask for the code enforcement official to speak next.
When was the original building built that you're altering?
The original building was built around 1970.
The wing that you're altering, was that also 1970?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
The wing that you altered these windows in, generally, would you say that those rooms were constructed in 1970 as well?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay.
I had just one quick question. Any of these windows involve the second floor? Help me.
No, they do not. They're all on the first floor. the sill of the window is approximately 2.5 feet from the ground.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something in my reading. And this was an alteration level 2?
That's correct.
And there's 2 exits from the dwelling units relative to the
Yes,
door. There's 2 exits off the corridor?
Yes, there is multiple exits, at least 2.
Okay.
It's just one dwelling unit. There's just one dwelling unit. The occupants are anywhere from 6 to 12 is the most they have there, but it's probably around 8 occupants, generally speaking, because it's an older population, it's an adult population, adult male population of brothers, and not as many people coming in to the monastery as previously. So it's, pardon me, John? Yeah, so it's just one dwelling unit with sleeping rooms. I just wanted to point that out because although it does have a lot of square feet, but that's really all it is one dwelling unit with sleeping rooms. Yeah.
Okay. And how many windows are involved?
I believe it would be.
How about let's call them openings? How many openings are we?
I think it's 11 openings. Right here? Yeah.
Okay.
11
so you took 11 casement windows and you converted them to 2 double hungs?
That's correct.
2 casement windows.
Pardon me?
There were 2 casement.
Yeah, two casement windows that were 2 feet wide each, and we converted them to 2 double hung windows that were 2 feet wide each. Now, when we were in our thought process too, even though it's not really directly stated in the code in 702.5, but I'd like to note that the casement windows, the existing casement windows, and even new ones that you would put in that would be the same size, even in today's, we used Pella windows. The way they open on a hinge that moves the casement window towards the center of the opening, so that when the window is fully open, the clear width is only 13 inches wide, but it's still 4 feet tall. So you have a tall, thin opening, where we felt that the double hung ones that we put in are approximately, nominally 21 by 21 inches wide. And even though its overall net clear opening is less, we feel it's a better shape, so to speak, and easier to get out of.
Did you do any modifications to the opening?
No, we did not.
So you were able to put 2 double hung windows in the same opening as the casement windows without modification of the opening?
Yes, correct.
Were these manufactured by Pella where you didn't have to do any framing in between the 2 double hung? It came as a single unit you put in with 2 double hungs?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, those are my questions. Gail, did you have any questions?
No, just they're quoting chapter 7. He says he was in 5, but 505.2 says the same as 702.
Yeah, and that's correct. You're operating chapter 5?
No.
You said prescriptive?
No, we are using the work compliance method, which is chapter 6 through 12, I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. There's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So, give us a moment. The code enforcement official, who is here representing the.
Good morning.
702. Chapter 6.
Yes. Are you okay?
Yes, it's John Graham, JOHNGRAHAM. Everybody hear me all right?
There's some background noise from Syracuse, from Albany community. Yeah, thank you. Either mute the speaker or... Okay, Mr. Graham, go ahead.
All right. I agree with a bunch of what they were saying here. They are going with the alteration level 2 in 702.5. It does not say anything about not reducing the overall opening. It does say that in 505.3. My only point in pointing that out, if everybody has my questionnaire in front of them, is as number 14. As a side note, although 505.3 doesn't apply in this case, I believe it does a better job of describing the overall intent of what the codes are trying to achieve in this scenario. They're effectively reducing the overall clear opening to be able to get out. And I believe that the intent of the codes is not to do that. That is mentioned in a few other places in different sections of the codes, just not in particular in Chapter 7 of this one. I believe Chris Jensen is here. He had, I believe he had mentioned that he was going to be reaching out to some folks at the state level to see about maybe changing 702.5 to read more like 505.3. But again, I understand that doesn't apply particularly in this case. So my concern, even though they have added other fire safety features in the rest of the building, if there is a fire outside of the door, those other safety features won't help them get out of the building any quicker. And by reducing the overall net clear opening, it's going to be more difficult to get out. As far as using replacement casement windows from Pella, there are other windows. They don't have to be Pella. There are other windows that do still swing at the very edge of the window, as opposed to kind of making it move towards the center. And also another thing that I said in the questionnaire is whatever you folks decide, I am perfectly fine with enforcing it. This was just my concern reading through it. If you guys tell me that that they can move on to keeping what they have, fine and dandy, that's what I'll enforce. I'm just concerned that that's not what it means at this moment. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Any questions for Mr. Graham?
Mr. Graham, did you review Appendix A of the residential code? I know some conversation came up with residential code in section R310 and Appendix J, 501.43 and 501.431 kind of talk about this issue. Did you review those things during your review?
I was not the one that reviewed it, so I can't answer for the gentleman that did review it.
How did you come to discover the issue then with the openings? Where did your involvement begin?
When our inspector went out towards the end of the project, he saw that they were the windows that were installed, which they are shown in the drawings. So that was a miss. That wasn't found earlier in the project, and I understand the frustration from that. And but that we still have to enforce what we believe we're supposed to enforce. So it was found late in the game, unfortunately. So, and then that was brought to my attention. So I'm the administrator of the office here, so it was one of the other inspectors that was involved with that. I came into it at the very end. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, could I ask who it was that just spoke there again? What was it in Appendix J? What sections were you referencing?
It's Jeff Hinderleiter, and I referred to section AJ 501.4.3 And then 501.4.3.1.
Wait.
And the reason I asked the building construction era is because in residential occupancies, because when the residential code is being cited, it has almost its own existing building code that we adopted in the appendix that kind of sings in concert. And so in that section, it says section 501.431, the replacement of emergency escape and rescue opening windows in conformance with the code in effect at the time of construction shall not require compliance with section R310 of this code. So looking at R310 and the dimensions in the residential code, the code explicitly relieves that as long as it was done in accordance with the code that was in effect at the time. So if this building had been built, much later when the international codes were in effect, then we would have that to go back to. But being 1970, the Uniform Code hadn't been passed by the state yet, so we would be kind of at the mercy of whatever the local codes at the time governing this building were adopted.
All right. So that would fall under the alterations level 1. Would that apply? I know that this is an R3, but it's not a 1 or 2 family home or a townhouse. So would that section apply in this particular case? And it's referencing a level 1. This is a level 2.
Sure. My point and really pointing it out is questions have been raised or comments have been made in some of the submittals about referring to section R310 as kind of a governing point to stand on. And it was more to try to say that the code contemplated some of this. Because I'm looking at the existing building code, in 2015, the code had language in there about style of existing windows, that you had to match the style of the window when you replaced it, because it had the equal or greater opening area. And that language was struck in 2018, which is the base code of the 2020 codes that New York State adopted. And they struck that language out of the existing building code. And it was not struck from the floor. That may be a little bit of code geek, but it appears that it was struck from what they call the Code Consistency Committee, that during publication, they were trying to bring harmony to those code changes across, as multiple code changes are rolling in, and trying to bring all those approvals together, that they removed that style criterion out of the existing building code, which then when we adopted it as New York State, we got that chapter where they removed the stylistic language, which probably is closer to the point that both you and the New York State technician are making. That language very much is in that line of thinking, but that language was struck. And so we have a spot where in the existing building code anyways, that we've looked at that and said that the style of the window matters less. And so that was removed in this for us in 702.5.
All right. Just in relation to that, I understand the style part of it. My concern is more the equal or a greater window opening area, regardless of the style. I understand that part. Just responding to what you had said there, just where I'm coming from on it. So.
Any more questions for Mr. Graham? Okay, thank you, Mr. Graham. Any questions for the applicant? Petition. Okay, hearing none. Do we have any questions for Mr. Collier? Okay. We are ready to go to deliberation. Okay. So we are going to take a recess while the board deliberates.
Do you guys want to add anything?
I don't, I don't have anything really to add other than, I would agree with, just the code's not, it's sometimes it's a gray area, and you can only go by what the act, it says exactly, right, Bob? Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, my name is Bob Cordell, and I'm a consultant to the applicant. I would just like to point out that the section
Hold
of
on, Mr. Cordell, just 1 second. We're gonna, we need to register your name and your address for the court reporter.
Okay. My name is Bob Cordell, Cordell Consulting Services, LLC, 11 Herbert Drive, Latham, New York, 12110.
Can you spell Cordell for me, please?
C-O-R, D as in David, E-L-L.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Cordell.
I spent 30 years as Chief Commercial Building Inspector, Town of Colony. I'm familiar with this code. Applicant has chosen the
Work area compliance.
the work area compliance method of compliance, okay? And the work area compliance method under the section that we're talking about does not have the words, what's that section?
7025.
Does not have the words at the end of the exception number 1 that talk about the clear opening being equal or more than the existing one. Those words were specifically taken out of the section. They do appear in the
505.
in section 505, but that's a different compliance method, and we're precluded from going back and forth between compliance methods. We need to stay with the compliance method that was chosen by the design professional. And if we look at the code that was chosen by the design professional, those words that talk about the new clear opening being equal or more than the existing clear opening simply are not there. That's where we are. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from Mr. Cordell? Anybody else have anything to add to this case before we go into deliberation? Okay, hearing none. We are going to take a recess and we will go to deliberation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, I have us off the record.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back on the record. Okay, we're reopening the hearing in the matter of Newscape Monastery, petition number 2023-0344. Just a couple questions for clarification. Mr. Graham, are you with us?
Yeah.
When were when did it become noticed to you that there was a problem with the windows? Was this during plan review or after construction or at time of CO? When was that picked up?
It was just before CO.
Okay. Let's see. And for the applicant, hang on here. Get you. Mr. Lama?
Yes.
Layman? Okay.
Yes.
Question. In your research for window sizes, how did you go about determining what was the largest window that was available that could meet the ERO within that window opening?
The largest window. So we looking at like double hung and casement windows. If you try to if you try to get a larger window, like a wider window, then there was not another standard window that would work with it. Either if it was casement or if it was double hung. Let's say nominally, let's call them nominally 2 feet wide. You know, there's not like a 3 foot wide window and a 1 foot wide window, or 2'6" and 1'6" in either casement or double hung. So, you know, unless you made a special window, and I believe the code says it's a standard size window. So we were working with standard sizes from a manufacturer that would fit within the existing window opening without having to modify the window opening. And I believe that's the intent of 702.5 to allow that.
Well, that's kind of what we were looking at, is because looking through the Pella product line, it looks like they do make a casement window that would fit in there, not looking exactly like what you had there before with the width allowed. And it didn't appear to be a special order. That's kind of one of the questions we were troubled with, is that we actually found casements and well, we didn't have the product sheet, but I think there was one of the sheets there is an option for a double hung that being a single double hung being that wide within the opening.
A single double hung that's 4 feet wide?
They don't make one.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't believe they make a single one. Oops. Are we still on?
This is Chris Jensen with the Department of State. I did provide cut sheets and sheets from Pella.
Yeah, Chris, since you provided that, did you find do you have a model number for the standard size window?
The car will close temporarily.
I did provide a sheet showing all the casement windows and stuff that Pella offers as far as standard sizes and the associated emergency escape and rescue openings for them.
Sorry, that's what we're looking for, Chris, is that.
So Chris, do you at the Department of State consider a special order window to be standard? How are we defining the term standard size?
So I looked at and contacted Pella. They provided me a sheet showing all their standard sizes and emergency escape and rescue openings associated with them. And as far as the statement that they do not offer a double hung that's 48 inches or more wide, I don't know if that is the case.
They don't offer one. Our Pella guy told us.
Are we still on voice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. We're told that they don't offer one. We worked with a Pella manufacturer, Crawford Door and Windows. We've been working with for 35 years, and Tim Whitelaw. We work with him, all the time. And we went to the manufacturer. We asked him, and I don't see anything in the product literature that says you can have a 48-inch wide window. And also, where in the code does it say that I can't have a double hung versus a casement window? I mean, it doesn't mention the style of the window. It just says standard size window.
Right, to fit in the opening that's code compliant. That's what the intent of that section says.
That's
So in the board in reading section 702.5, condition 1, to have to not meet the sizing requirements, it has to meet the 2 conditions that are there, that the replacement window is the manufacturer's largest standard size window that will fit within the existing frame or existing rough opening. And so the question is, you had a roughly 48 by 48 rough opening, because you had a double casement window that came out and it was a single rough opening. Does the window you installed represent the largest standard size window that fits in there, in the sense of that's the largest size opening that can happen in perspective of EEROs? So while we'll call it a 2-unit double hung window, so there's 4 sashes, did they have an option that could go in there that would satisfy the emergency and rescue opening in a 48 by 48 rough opening?
No.
no.
And that's what we're trying to determine. Chris, do you have other documentation? Because we didn't get a full cut sheet that shows sizes of windows. This is Chris Jensen from Department of State.
What I downloaded was the Pella's casement windows, as far as what the emergency escape and rescue openings were for all the different models that they offer, as far as sizes for that a double casement.
Is it a white sheet that the top says casement special size frame dimensions? Is it that sheet? The document entitled Pella Casement Window EERO.pdf?
Trying it slow.
So the windows that you bought from Pella, this is to Mr. Lehman, they were off the shelf, or did you have to custom order them?
They're off the shelf.
Right? Yeah.
This is John Graham. I have a question when I can fit it in.
Go ahead, Mr. Graham.
If they do make Pella or whoever makes a casement window that would fit in those openings and provide the emergency egress, would they be required to use a casement versus switching it to a double hung? That's my first question. And then the second question is, do they have to be Pella?
It's not, the style requirements are taken out of there, so it doesn't make any difference as long as the window, it's a standard window that fits in the opening, is the largest window opening available. That's
okay.
And that's, to us, the question comes back is that you're only limited to Pella.
Smaller.
Right.
And even the casement windows that are shown in the picture, they don't, that style is still available, but they make that style as an emergency ERO where they're hinged on the side, so which would be better than what's there now, and frankly, probably better tame what the double hungs were.
Standard though.
Standards,
That's
yeah.
not,
That's not standard.
that's
though.
not standard.
That's a special order.
What's a special order? A double hung window?
No, the change the casement hinge.
It's a standard ERO casement window.
It's not.
I think
I
the
don't have-
definition of standard needs to be considered, of what we mean by standard and what what the catalog means by standard. Because I don't think the codes are considering a special order window standard. I think a complete, and my understanding, when it's using the language of standard, if you think of a commercial storefront or large commercial, even the building we're sitting in, the glazing here is custom purpose built for this building based on how it's designed. So it has custom frame, custom sash, everything to fit very specific openings. Residential or manufacturer, their windows are standardized, meaning that they all have the same nail fin, they all have these same configurations, and you can order them, but you're not going to a custom glazing where everything is custom. And so I think that when the code is using the word standard, standard window, is that this window is something that anyone could go get, whether special order or off the shelf, they could get that window. It's not something that's proprietary or custom to a specific building. And I don't know if other board members would agree with that thought, that the way that the code is using the word standard, because it's an undefined term, I think the intent of it is aiming at that you can get this window without having to go get custom everything top to bottom getting made for it.
Well, we were told by our Pella representative that the casements that we replaced would need to be ordered special to change the hinge so when it wouldn't open, so it would open the full width of the window. So we could go get a casement off the shelf, but it would still only open. It doesn't open the whole width of the window. So the double hung does open the whole width of the window.
This is John Graham again. I did look during the break, and like Anderson windows, you can get those where they're casements that are hung right on the side, standard. So.
The code doesn't direct us to check every applicable manufacturer in the United States. I mean,
no, but the code states that you need to, when you replace that window, it's the largest standard window that fits in that opening, and the provision above this section states that where EEROs are required, they don't need to meet the size requirements if they do this. So we know this is an EERO that's required as a sleeping room in an R3. So it's required to have an emergency and rescue opening. So the question is, and just real practically, the time to make that opening the widest and safest is when that window is out of its frame and it's just a rough opening. And the spirit and intent of the code is if we have an opportunity, especially the existing building code, you have an opportunity to make it safer. What's the safest option that we can take there to make this as most compliant as we can? Would you agree that that's the intent of the existing building code, is to reuse existing buildings and make them as safe as possible when we have that chance? And if we do have that, then there was an opportunity in this to, when that rough opening was exposed, to get a window that would satisfy the EERO requirement as best as possible. It may not satisfy the exact dimensions that the building code would have, but it would be the best attempt at that. So while the existing building code is not boxing in on style or like that, this window has a single rough opening that was 48 by 48 inches. So the opportunity to put in a large enough window was there. If this was two rough frames, two rough openings that were, if it's 48, let's say that they reach 20 inches wide, you have two 20-inch rough openings next to each other. Well, that's a different story. That's two windows going in with two rough openings. You make them fit as best as they can there. But that's not what we had. What we had is a single rough opening that's 48 inches wide. So a window could have been ordered that would have avoided this. One of the things to take into consideration is if this had been caught at permit stage and you wanted to use those windows and you came to us with a variance application saying during design phase, I'd like to use these windows. This is what they are. They don't meet these opening requirements. Chances are that variance would be denied because we would say, are there windows that exist that you can order that will fit that will satisfy that requirement? Yes, there are. They may not be Pella, but there are. We don't, as the code enforcement body of the state, and for us as a board, we don't care who the manufacturer is, as long as it satisfies our reference standards and satisfies the code. So whether or not the guy you've used for 30 years can get that window or not isn't an issue to us. If there are products out there that satisfy this and they can be had, then that's where we're going to err on that side.
Well, when you say there's a 48 by 48 inch opening that you can work with, can you, so what window would you use?
You as the RA can call multiple window manufacturers, tell them what your rough opening is, tell them it's an EERO window, and they'll provide you with windows that satisfy EERO requirements and will fit in your rough opening. Is that, if this were a new building, you needed that's right what you would do.
So I'm just asking what the solution is. You're saying that I have to have a special window then, not a standard window.
Again, the definition of standard that you're using, I don't believe is what the codes interpret as standard. It's not, the code does not interpret standard as off the shelf versus special order.
So,
because if the code says you need a 16-foot, 2x10 or 4x10 or whatever structural component, that's pretty much a special order. You're not going to go into any building supply store and pick it up. The code doesn't, the idea of special order versus standard is outside of the scope of the code. So when it's using the term standard, it's standard versus a proprietary glazing like you would see on a commercial storefront or a large glass and face building where all the glazing has structural components that go in it too. Special structurally designed glass, those are the things that those are difference between standard versus not. So to me, the non-standard window isn't because you have to special order it. It's that it's going to be in a custom aluminum frame with custom glazing that's going to be shaped like a trapezoid. I can't make you buy that window. If you have a rough opening that's a weird shape, I can't. That's something completely different.
So
window.
So what you're saying is a special order window is the same thing as a standard window. That's the first thing I want to ask.
What I'm saying is the word standard and special you're using in your context is not how the code uses the word standard.
How does the code use standard?
I just explained how I perceive the code uses the word standard, which is that it's a product that is available for you to buy. Whether special ordered or off the shelf.
A product that's available that we can buy. Write that down. A product that's available that we can buy.
Sir, listen to me. If you're going to get sarcastic,
I'm asking.
If you're going to be rude, I'm ready to make a motion.
I'm not being rude. I'm just asking to write it down so I can understand it. It's something that we've lived with for a long time here. We've spent a lot of time and we take this stuff very seriously. I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm not sarcastic whatsoever. So if you take it that way, my apologies. It's a situation that we're trying to rectify, and we didn't see it as any issue at all. Like we said, the day that there was a CO was when it was brought upon us. We got, 4 or 5 different reviews after we got our permit that went through everything. in the code and never was spoken about, but that's one thing. But I'm saying from the beginning, I would just like to say, like, I'm trying to understand what would you put in there then? Like a larger casement window and then a smaller one next to it? Or a larger double hung and a smaller one next to it? I'm just trying to figure out the answer. I mean, the window now is easier to get through than the window that was there before. I think we could probably agree on that, because the existing window only opened up 13 inches wide. So in the spirit of the code, the opening to get out with the windows that are in there that are been installed with the two double hungs is easier to get out than a 13-inch wide one that was existing. So I think it would be a step in the right direction, at least. I'm not quite sure by determination of the definitions or whatever, as far as standard and special. I certainly didn't think it that way, obviously, if I did. But I still don't even know the answer if it was. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, you put a 2'6" and a 1'6" window in to make it bigger. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at.
I think there's a couple questions for us that we're trying to understand here. Is that we know from our professional experience there are casement windows that are hinged from the outside that are standard windows. You might have to call them up and say, hey, you need these orders. They're not sitting on the shelf. That would have an opening bigger than what's there now, but certainly big and certainly bigger than what you installed. We are a little concerned because the openings that you have, while their dimensions are different as far as the width, there's a height issue that's still there, and the overall opening size is still fairly small relative to the emergency escape and rescue opening. When I went to look at your drawings, I was looking for anything in the drawings that indicated that, that there was an EERO consideration. It's just, you've got a schedule of windows that you've installed, and they're all lifestyle windows. So I'm struggling to understand, was there actually a looking to find a window that would comply with the ERRO that would fit in there? And it doesn't have to be a casement window or a double hung window. It's just a window with an opening that's bigger or closer to the size that's available from the manufacturer. So that's where I think we're struggling with here, is the answer to the question is, and we all deal with different, have experience with different window manufacturers. And we know that, especially when it comes to ERROs, we've had variances come before this board where they had double hung windows that actually, new construction had to be removed. And the solution was a casement window that could swing out that met the ERRO standards. So we know that the reason the style was probably taken out of the original code language, or at least in the residential code, but it was because style shouldn't matter. It's about the opening, trying to get to compliance. And that's honestly where we're at. That's why we deliberate as long as we have, is we're trying to say, did you pick the easiest path, or did you actually try to find an something that was closer to EERO?
No.
Not trying to read your mind or interpret your actions. We're just trying to figure out what happened here, how we got this point.
No, I mean, we didn't take the easiest path by any means. We thought that was the best solution. We worked with, like I say, with our window manufacturer, and I guess I don't know, standard size. I think that was what we thought was a standard size window without ordering anything special. So I guess it's very confusing to us.
Well, it kind of confuses us because if the code official, they did a plan review, they missed the EERO on the plans because I frankly couldn't find it on your drawings where you'd even mentioned it. So compliance or some type of statement saying that we know these windows don't comply with the ERO, but they are the largest available. There's no statement in your drawing that I saw anywhere. Maybe I didn't have all all of your drawing information. If we only have the sheets, maybe there's more documentation in there that we don't have.
Yeah, this is Chris Jensen, Department of State, chiming in. I just went to the Pella website and added a 48-inch by 48-inch double hung window that met the EERO into my shopping cart.
Chris, could you take a snapshot or a PDF of that and send it to the board? Or send it to Barbara, who can forward it to us, or Neil, who can forward it to us.
Should ask Tim to come. Yes.
I just sent it to Dan. I think you can share it.
That's what I normally said.
Huh?
And I said that would hinge on what the standard largest size would be.
Yeah, what can they say? They make a 48 by 48 inch. That you just order it in your shopping cart. But
I don't know.
I don't know. I have to ask Tim.
Yeah, Dan, are you on this call still? I just sent it to your phone. I don't know if you have the ability to share it.
Yeah, Chris, this is Dan Farley, Department of State. I am still here. Let me see if I got it. I did get it. And bear with me. I'll see if I can send this to my email and then post it on the screen, or send it to the chairman.
Would it be standard in other cities?
I'll give a couple of minutes to take a look.
I know, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't see the information in front of me, but.
Mr. Chairman, I sent the email to you.
Okay.
Please let me know if you don't get it, and I'll try to send it to you some other way.
Yeah, just give me a moment. It's downloading.
And for the court reporter, this is Dan Farley of the Department of State.
Let me put this part here on here, but I can't see it. Right here. Replacement window.
Dan, can you post it on the WebEx?
Oh. can't. All right. Replacement window emergency escape and rescue opening shall picture larger size.
I'm going to try to share my screen, okay?
Okay. Barbara, I just sent you a copy, so I don't know if you can share that with.
I'm just saying on the code review I put, you can't see it there because it's so small, but 705.2. We reiterated that right there.
Yeah, he's sharing
On the
it.
screen now.
Color 250 series double hung. Steering foam. No.
Okay.
250 series. Okay, but that's not our frame height.
What's that?
Ours is 47 and a half.
Well, I don't know if that's an actual, is that that window, is that the frame of the window or is that the rough opening of the window?
All I have is what you have.
Oh, okay. It says
They
frame
had
width.
every window in between on every 0.5 inch increments.
In what increments?
Half an inch increments for any rough opening up to 60 inches in height and width.
Every half inch. And that,
I mean,
I don't know. We were not aware of that, and by any means. And we did code review we have a code review oversheet on our drawings on drawing G102, and we do have the 702.5 replacement windows in there on that code review, where we said right from the code, the replacement window emergency, hard for me to read, I got a small one, escape and rescue opening shall be the manufacturer's largest size standard window. So we did point it out in our code review. I believe the chairman was maybe saying that it's not on the drawing anywhere, but we did mention it there in the code review.
right here. It's in there. Stand. The tape.
Oh.
Tell them what drawing again.
It's on drawing G as in George 102. It's what we call our code overview, and it's where we write down how we're looking at the building, why we went with the work area method. We point out in a 45 degree, and we have an alteration level 1 and alteration level 2 project, and we're talking alteration level 1, I believe, where we are. No, alteration level 2, what we have. And so as you go through there, we point out, the different chapters, definition, provision for all compliance methods, and we say what we're using the work area compliance method so that the code enforcement officer knows on our drawings that that was the compliance method that we picked, that we selected as the design professional. We selected the work area, and that's on the drawing there. Classification of work, and then alterations level 1 and 2. We point out requirements of the code. And so, we did, again, how to say this, but I've been doing it for 35 years. I look at these things very intently. Not my worst nightmare would I would think that that standard window, you can just pick one off the shelf like that. It's not what I'm familiar with. But anyways, I just wanted to point out that it is it was on the drawings, you know, and it had been there on the drawings, and the existing windows were shown, the new windows were shown, and that we thought that we were in agreement with the code enforcement official, since there was a building permit was issued, and subsequently we received 4 more reviews, which if you read through them, you know, I think that they were looking at some of the code enforcement officials, because there was like 4 different code enforcement officials citing different code sections that we needed to have. You know, we needed to have a emergency light or something else that the code didn't say we needed. And then you can see as you read through it, they finally went back and agreed with us on every single thing that we wrote back to them, I believe, over a 4-month period from September to December. And then we just thought everything was compliant. And, you know, if, I don't know, standard in that window there, I don't know what else to, if you can pick any window you want, then I guess there's no standards anymore. We always thought standard was when you have the, you know, I have this paperwork, you know, when you look in a book, I have this, I'm holding it in front of me here, but you go in the, used to be when you go through the Pella literature and you go, they have the books, or you go online, that they would have the different unit sizes, which give a description of the width and the height and et cetera. So we didn't think we could get a 4-foot wide window, and we didn't think we could get a 3-foot and a 1-foot. And so I guess must be a unique situation I don't ever remember coming across, that's for sure. But we did delve into it very specifically and for a long time. Did spend a lot of time, and I just want to say that it wasn't something that was just, you know, forgotten about by any means.
Mr. Lamont, I give it, you know, I missed that part where you actually put that in there. I was looking on your window schedules because it didn't call, but you did put it in your code review. So yes, so it appears at least you're aware of that requirement. The other part of this that, you know, we also look at is 701.2, which is conformance. And I think this is somewhat to what the code enforcement official is, you know, looking at, is if, does the window, because of its overall opening size is less, is that less safe than its existing condition? And frankly, that's a should be objective, but obviously because of some of the matters that you included here in your exhibits, stating from a firefighter saying that it was less, or excuse me, that it was not less safe than the existing conditions, because from a firefighter standpoint, they can clear the windows easily. But from a person who's trying to escape from the window, that's the question. If the window opening is not a bit large enough for somebody to, a large person to fit through the window.
Why'd you look at me?
Well, I was looking at myself. You know, is that really, you know, more safe or not? Would I rather take my chances going through the casement window and breaking the hardware, or trying to fit through a double hung window that doesn't have a vertical height that's clear enough for me to fit through? So that's where it becomes somewhat of a subjective selection there.
Okay, can I speak? I agree with you, and if I can speak to that, I'm looking at in my code book here, 701.2 conformance. The existing building or portion thereof shall not be altered such that the building becomes less safe than its existing condition. So
that's what I was speaking to about subjective, just because of that.
Right. And I'm just looking at that, and I'm just thinking, like, I'm reading that when I read my codes all the time, when I do my projects all the time, and I'm thinking, you know, am I making anything? I mean, in that section itself, not really specific to windows, but it's specific to the whole building. and everything in the code. And I'm just thinking to myself, when I'm reading through these codes, I'm looking at that. Am I making the building or the window less safe? I know you're saying subjective. It's subjective. I agree. And I guess my determination was that I wasn't making it less safe. Yeah, for other reasons too that we put in for the variance portion instead of the appeal, with the other things that we had added, how the building was brought up to much better code standards, and also just getting through that window. I mean, we actually had a window that was that size, and that's what we did when we were in our office. We took a scale, the old architectural scale, and the 13-inch window with the double hung with the casement, and we couldn't fit through it. And with the double hung window that was 20 by 21 by 21 nominally, we could just jump right through it. So we just don't think that, speaking out of code now or whatever, just I'm going to use the word logical or whatever. I don't know what the right word to use at this point is, be honest with you. But we got out the window really easily. And I know that you can't speak to, I know when you're using an emergency egress opening, you can't speak to, using special tools and all that kind of stuff to get out. But reality is with the double hung, they're made to tilt now. You tilt it open and you just pop it right out. The jambs are made out of like a vinyl, and you can just push that out so easily. And I know that I'm just mentioning it as on a variance side, not as I know the code says no special tools or thoughts or whatever, right, Bob?
Okay.
So anyways.
Thanks.
Just for clarification on that, Mr. Lamont, are you talking about the tilt wash feature?
Yeah, just about every double hung or those ones there, they open up. You can tilt them open and you can basically pop them right out. You just pop them right out, top or bottom. Basically just push them right open, right, Bob? Yeah.
Tilt them and then you turn it.
Yeah, you just tilt them and turn it, pops right out. But anyways,
in a fire situation, I think it's a little bit difficult for somebody to say, okay, how do I disconnect this window from this casement? So, okay.
I agree with that.
Let me just see where we're at here. Thoughts? I'll go back and deliberate a little more.
Just a minute.
Okay. We're going to go off the record for a few minutes. We're going to go into recess and we'll be right back with you. Okay?
I have us off the record.
Thank you. Thank you. We're back in our deliberation, from our deliberation. Couple things I think we have talked about this longer than we probably talked about any case in recent months. Clearly, it's not an easy case. So in regards to this petition number, in regards to petition in the matter of New Skeet Monastery, petition number 2023-0344. Do I have a motion?
You do.
Mr. Hinderleiter.
The petition pertains to the alteration of a building of occupancy groups R3, residential non-transient monastery of construction type 5B, wood frame unprotected, 2 stories in height, 22,546 square feet in gross floor area, known as New Skeet Monastery, located at 250 to 273 New Skeet Lane, Town of White Creek, County of Washington, State of New York. The petitioner is appealing the determination of a code enforcement official regarding the applicability of the following code sections. 19 NYCRR Part 1227, the existing building code of New York State, Section 702.5, replacement window emergency escape and rescue opening, reads that when replacing windows that with required emergency escape and rescue openings, a group R3 occupancy is exempt from the requirements of sections 1030.2, 1030.3, and 1030.4 of the Building Code of New York State, and sections R310.2.1, R310.2.2, and R310.3 71.2.3 of the Residential Code of New York State, provided that the replacement window is the manufacturer's largest standard size window that will fit within the existing rough opening. And 19 NYCRR Part 1227, the existing Building Code of New York State, Section 71.2 conformance, reads that an existing building or portion thereof shall not be altered such that the building becomes less safe than its existing condition. The petitioner states that the existing 2 casement windows were replaced with 2 double hung units that were the manufacturer's largest size windows that fit within the existing rough opening. Board finds the following findings of facts. 1, the existing system consisted of 2 casement windows, each with an emergency escape and rescue opening size of 13 inches wide by 43 inches high for an approximate total opening of 3.88 square feet. 2, the proposed system consists of 2 double hung units, each unit with an emergency escape and rescue opening size of 20 5/16 inch wide and 20.5 inches high for an approximate total opening of 2.89 square feet. 3, the existing system consisted of 2 casement windows. 4, the proposed system consists of 2 double hung units, each with 2 windows for a total of 4 windows. 5, the existing 2-window system was replaced with a 4-window system. 6, the proposed system has a net reduction in the emergency escape and rescue opening of 0.99 square feet. 7, Pella Products provided data to the Division of Building Standards and Codes detailing that the double hung units are not the manufacturer's largest standard window that fits within the rough opening. 8, Pella Products provided casement window dimensional data which details that they manufacture a double casement window that will fit in the 47 3/4 inch wide by 48 1/4 inch wide rough opening. Each window having an emergency escape and rescue opening size of 13.25 inches wide and 43.375 inches high, with an approximate total opening area of 3.99 square feet. 9, Section 701.2 of the 2020 existing Building Code of New York State reads, an existing building or portion thereof shall not be altered such that the building becomes less safe than its existing condition. 10, the local code enforcement official does not support the appeal and states that the replacement windows should have at least the same net clear opening of the windows that were replaced. In view of the above findings, the board denies the appeal of the petitioner and therefore sustains the determination of the code enforcement official. Insufficient evidence has been provided to warrant reversing the determination of the code official. In addition, in view of the above findings, testimony and documentation presented before it, the board finds that the burden of proof has not been met for the relief requested within the application for a variance submitted by the petitioner. Burden of proof is on the petitioner to show that they are entitled to any relief and to provide the board with facts which demonstrate the burden imposed by strict compliance and with facts as to the safety and propriety of the alternative to strict compliance. Insufficient evidence has been provided to establish that granting such variance would not substantially adversely affect provisions for health, safety, and security, and that equally safe and proper alternatives have been prescribed. I so move.
So a motion by Mr. Hinderleiter to deny the, or to grant, deny the appeal and to deny the variance. Mr. Garlock, do we have a second? Sorry, I should check on that. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Garlock will second. Hold over board, Ms. Swistak.
Aye.
Mr. Garlock. Mr. Hinderleiter.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, 4 ayes, no nays to deny the appeal and to deny the variance. Also, just for the record, Mr. Hubbard, we want to enter in Exhibit 7, which was provided from the Department of State showing a Pella 250 series double hung window with frame width 48 by frame width height 48. So those are entered in the record. And this hearing is concluded with exception of this decision is limited to the specific building and application before it as contained with the petition interpreted implied approval or any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. This hearing is closed. We will move on to our next hearing.
Sorry.
You too.
Okay, do we have an applicant for Poets Landing?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So this involves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
15.
14, 15, 16 petitions, all regarding the same manner. So we will use petition 2023-0355 for our discussion and purposes of deliberation. Just grab the petition. There we go. All right. So this involves 3 properties located in the town of, in the village of Dryden, Tompkins County, on Elliott Drive in Freeville, New York. The owner is Conifer Realty, LLC. Do we have a representative for this petition?
Yes, my name is Kat Jackson. I'm a regional manager for Conifer.
Okay, so you want to go ahead and explain what your petition is?
Sure. So phase 1 of Poet Landing, their 8-plex buildings was built in 2011, and then phase 2 was built in 2017. Previously this year, we had an inspection by code and we're told that we needed to supply all of the residents with fire extinguishers. We've had previous inspections, and I don't know if it's just an interpretation of the code, but we do have sprinkler systems throughout every single apartment, and we have the fire stops, 2 of them located in the range hood in each apartment as well.
And you're asking for to appeal the code enforcement's determination, or you're looking for a variance? Never mind, I just answered my own question. You're looking for a variance so that you don't have to provide the fire extinguishers. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the mitigation that you're providing is that you've supplying a non-listed suppression system over the stoves. Is that correct?
Right. So we have the fire stops above the stoves, and we have each unit is got a sprinkler system throughout the unit.
Okay. Well, the sprinkler is required regardless.
Okay. And then we have the fire stops as well.
Okay. Just grab the cut sheets here. So, so these fire stop units, you've already installed these units over the stoves?
They're the fire stop canisters, so they are magnetic and they stick up in the range hood above the stove, and then they're heat activated. So if there were like a grease fire and it would touch the canister would then explode and put the fire out.
Okay. Are they easily removable?
They are removable. Like I said, they are, they're magnetic, but we do semi-annual inspections of every unit. And that's part of our inspections to make sure that both canisters are still there. And then they get replaced. I believe it's every 5 years they expire and they get replaced.
Okay. Let me pull the board. Questions?
So if there's a fire somewhere else in the unit, how far does an occupant have to travel to find a fire extinguisher?
So there are no fire extinguishers located in the units or the buildings because we have the sprinkler system. So if there was a fire in the unit, then immediately, as soon as the heat touches the sensor on the sprinkler head then blows.
Questions?
Have you received an estimate for the cost of purchasing a fire extinguisher for each unit?
Not yet, no. I do have one property in Mansfield, Pennsylvania that has fire extinguishers in the units because there's no other, systems available. It's an older complex. And I want to say we just replaced a couple, and I believe they were $167 a piece. And then there's annual inspections every year.
Code enforcement official. We have somebody representing Village of Dryden.
Yep. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead. Just state your name and your address for the court reporter.
William Knickerbocker, Knickerbocker, Code Enforcement Officer for the town of Dryden.
You have any information or any additional thoughts you want to share with the board regarding?
Sure, I can't express any more of the value of early intervention. That's the intent of 906. But I would ask Clark if she did receive the fire chief's statement by email this morning. He gave a comment, and I'm wondering if the board has seen that email that was sent in this morning.
Barbara, did you receive any email from the Dryden Fire Department?
Yep, it's coming over to you right now.
He comments about a few of the physical features and events there at Port's Landing over the lifetime of the dwellings there.
I haven't received anything, so if Barbara comes in. Do you have anything you want to verbally speak to?
Yeah. The Poets Landing is equipped with fire sprinkler. That's a fact. But the fire alarm system is only a flow alarm for the sprinklers. And the fire department is required to stop at the office facility to find out where any physical alarm is coming from. So it's only a flow alarm, and the dwelling units are equipped with single station smoke alarms.
That's not true. We do tests with our fire system, and it comes up on not only the main box in the maintenance shop, but when it goes through our fire system provider, it tells them exactly what building and what unit has the flow. So say a sprinkler head breaks, it'll tell them, building 26, apartment C. So if that's not working correctly, that's something new to my knowledge, but we tested it significantly when we built phase 2 because we had changed phase 1 into the same, and moved them into the same monitoring system and upgraded them at that time.
We should also send the fire chief's email to Cass so she can read Mark's.
Well, yeah, I'll allow you.
I'll send it over to her now. Did you get it yet, Tom?
Yep, I just got it and I just shared it with the board members.
All right, I did too. But Kat, I'm going to send it to you also.
Okay, thanks.
Has there been any experience of these discharging for kitchen fires?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Knickerbocker, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just remind the board that there are various types of canister suppression not systems, but these are standalone. They aren't systems and they're not approved. You'll find some of the documentation that she offers through Firestop that will be labeled UL, which is not, they have not been approved by, whether it's an ICC evaluation, there's no ICC evaluation or testing listed for this type of product.
Should be noted as on Exhibit A2, which is a cut sheet from Fire Stop. A couple items that brought to my attention is that the testing that they use is in general concordance with UL 300A. They're very, the advertising the manufacturer uses is somewhat deceptive in the sense that it implies that this is somehow meeting a 300A approval, and it's clearly not. And they even reference an old, a 2006 issue of 300A, which has been amended several times. So I guess in the UL requirements at the, there's a disclaimer on one of the sheets saying while they use the SDS for the product, they use the UL form, but it was not UL approved SDSs. So there's several kind of red flags for me when I was reading through the approval products. And if it was truly a 300 system or approved, it would not have this language in it. Okay. I think speaking for myself, these might be helpful. I don't see any pathway to substitute them for fire extinguishers, which are a code requirement. And the fire extinguishers also have to meet standards and inspection and testing. And there's no code enforcement avenue for these to be inspected or tested on an annual basis or even a semi-annual basis. So, okay. Any other comments, questions? Board.
For me, the question of a hardship, I don't think fire extinguishers, any other apartment building here should have them. For me, it's the question of a hardship of what other occupancies who are similar will have fire extinguishers from a variance perspective.
And I think from our perspective, one, I guess for me, and I wish somebody from our risk management department could be here because they might be able to speak better about this. But one, like I said, we got our C of O in 2011 and the second one for phase 2 in 2017. And if this was a code requirement, why wasn't it brought up during the stages of development before we got our certificate of occupancy? And I guess the second part of that is when we have had communities where we do supply fire extinguishers to families, we have children who grab them and they set them off, and then it's anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 worth of damage and cleanup costs.
So were you with the company in this position when those C of Os were issued?
Yes, I was.
For
phase 2. Phase 1, I was
two.
not.
Okay.
I didn't start with the company until 2013, but I was through the development construction at all of the meetings for phase 2.
Does your company manage any more of these in New York State or have these in other places in New York State?
Yes, we do. We have in 8plex, it's mirror image to Poets Landing in Horseheads, New York, and we are not required to have, at least that I've heard yet anyways, we have the same inspections that we have at Poets Landing, and we've never been told that we're required to supply fire extinguishers to every household.
Sometimes things may get missed on a C of O inspection, but years later, as they do the fire inspections, things get found. Because one of the reasons asking about timing is just even that if maybe they were present at the first inspection, and I've seen this in my municipality where you go to a landlord, do a rental inspection, and there's the fire extinguisher with the tag, everything looks good, get in your cars, drive the next rental. And that same exact fire extinguisher shows up at the next apartment. So granted, they're much smaller than this type of unit, but just thinking on that, if other units in New York State have them, but we're not talking about.
We have multiple properties in Ithaca and Tompkins County as well that Conifer owns and or manages, and those also are not required to have fire extinguisher. So I wasn't sure if it was a Village of Dryden interpretation of the code or if it's in New York State, because it's the same county.
Yeah, the board's not responsible for how other municipalities enforce the code or lack thereof. We're only dealing with this. It is a New York State requirement that fire extinguishers are required to be in each unit. And it was out of the code for a short time, back in the late 2000 or mid 2010, 2000, I forget. It's like Mr. Collier may remember when sprinkler buildings, they weren't required, and then later on it was put back in that they were required. So it's been subject to code change, and I don't recall when those were put in there. But they are in the code currently on existing buildings. They are required to have fire extinguishers in the dwelling units per existing building code. It's covered under the fire code and the property maintenance code. So there's no exception in the code based on municipalities. It's a New York State regulation that requires it.
And it is retroactive.
Yes, it is retroactive.
So grandfathering or existing non-compliant.
Correct.
And what's to stop people from taking these fire stops off of the stove?
It's the same as taking a smoke detector down. I can't stop them from doing it, but like I said, we do annual inspections when maintenance is in doing, regular repairs or work orders. That is one of the things we take very seriously, and we check to make sure that the smoke alarms are up and that the fire stops are in place. And if they're not, then they get violated. And if they get multiple violations, then they get taken to court either for an eviction or they get non-renewed, depending on which can happen sooner.
I'll just say that the code enforcement, since you're not appealing the code enforcement officer's determination, he has cited the code correctly that these are required. I'm sure that prior to this, I'm not sure what the other code enforcement officials in the town or village or Dryden determined regarding these, but I do know that the code that he or the code enforcement officials have cited is correct. So I don't think there's any. The question now before the board, which is what your application is asking for, is in lieu of the use of fire extinguishers, you're asking that these fire stop devices or appliances, or however we want to call them, be listed in lieu of that. Seeing as the fire stop works on stoves, it doesn't work on anything outside under the stove. So there's other things the fire extinguisher can be used for that may not fall on the stovetop. So as the portable appliances and things that get put on stoves, such as, portable deep fryers and things like that, the fire extinguisher would be able to be used for that, though not if it wasn't on the stove with the fire stops. Okay. I think we're just going to take a couple minutes for deliberation. I'll just ask, is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this petition before we go to recess? Hearing no further comments, we're going to go take a short recess, do a little deliberation. We'll be back shortly. We go off the record.
Yeah, I have us back on the record.
Okay, we are now reopening the hearing in petition numbers 2023-0355 through 2023-0369. These matters are in regard to 8 similar dwelling units, 2-story apartment buildings with petition numbers and addresses as follows. 2023-0355-3 Whitman Lane, 2023-0356 4 Whitman Lane, 2023-0357 7 Whitman Lane, 2023-0358 8 Whitman Lane, 2023-0359 11 Whitman Lane, 2023-0360 for 12 Whitman Lane, 2023-0361, which is 10 Keats Way, 2023-0326, which is 14 Keats Way, 2023-0363 which is for 20 Keats Way, 2023-0364, which is for 26 Keats Way, 2023-0365, which is for 27 Keats Way, 2023-0366 for 32 Keats Way, 2023-0367 for 33 Keats Way, 2023-0368 for 44 Keats Way, and 2023-0369 for 40 Keats Way. And do I have a motion for these petitions?
Yes, we do.
Ms. Lisak.
I make a motion for petition numbers 2023 through 2023-0355 through 2023-0369 in regards to or the nature of the grievance is the petition above pertain to appeal or variance seeking relief for required fire extinguishers located either in common areas or each dwelling unit's kitchen in an 8 dwelling unit apartment building, R2 occupancy with accessory S2 storage occupancy at approximately 8,000 square feet of type 5B construction, protected with the sprinkler system, 2 stories in height, located at all of the addresses listed. Village of Dryden, County of Tompkins, New York State. The public notice was published in the New York State Register August 2nd, 2023. The petitioner seeks relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1225, the 2010 Fire Code Section 906.1, portable fire extinguishers, which states that portable fire extinguishers shall be installed in the following locations. 1, in new and existing group A, B, E, F, H, I, M, R1, R2, R4, and S occupancies. Number 2, in areas where the petitioner is seeking relief for a variance to provide 1 portable fire extinguisher on a public area in each building. The facts. Number 1, subject petition pertains to an 8 one-bedroom dwelling unit apartment building, approximately 8,000 square feet, located at Poets Landing Apartments, 111 Freeville Road, at addresses noted above, Village of Dryden, Thompson County, New York State. Number 2, the building is subject to a petition, is properly classified per 19 NYCRR Part 1221, 2010 Building Codes of New York, Section 310.3, Residential Group R2, Residential Group R2 occupancies containing sleeping units or more than 2 dwelling units where the occupants are primarily permanent in nature, including apartment houses. Number 3, the building subject to the petition is properly classified per 19 NYCRR Part 1221, 2010 Building Codes of New York, Section 602.5, Type 5 construction. Unprotected is that type of construction in which the structural elements, exterior walls, and interior walls are of any materials permitted by the code. Number 4, the petitioner states in their narrative, Exhibit A, that the 8 two-bedroom dwelling unit apartment building was constructed between 2012 to 2017, and the building was all issued a certificate of occupancy and inspected every 3 years without violation for portable fire extinguishers. Thus, the petitioner states that the building must be compliant. Number 5, the petitioner's narrative, Exhibit A, states that the fire inspection resulted in violations, noting that portable fire extinguishers are required on each floor in a public location or at each dwelling unit's kitchen. However, the buildings have not altered the location of the fire extinguisher. Number 6, the petitioners request relief to allow that the existing portable fire extinguisher quantity and location remain as the CO had permitted. Number 7, the Town of Dryden Code Enforcement performed an annual inspection of the Poets Landing apartments and noted that the location, type, and quantity of the portable fire extinguishers was non-compliant and a violation was issued. Number 8, the local code official has been consulted in the matter and does not support the granting of a variance under Part 1205. Conclusion of law. To deny the variance. In view of the above findings, testimony, and documentation presented before us, the board finds that the burden of proof has not been met for the relief requested within the application of the variance submitted by the petitioner. The burden of proof is on the petitioner to show that they are entitled to any relief and to provide the board with facts and demonstrate the burden imposed by strict compliance and with facts as to the safety and propriety of any alternative to strict compliance. Insufficient evidence has been provided to establish the granting of such variance would not substantially adversely affect provisions for health, safety, and security, and that equally safe and proper alternatives have been prescribed. I so move.
Have a second?
Second.
Mr. Interlighter seconds. Full board. Mr. Garlock?
Aye.
Mr. Interlighter?
Aye.
Swistak?
Aye.
Chair votes aye too. So we have 4 ayes, no nays to deny the variance. This decision is limited to specific building and application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in supporting of this application.
Wow.
This case is closed.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to our next case. Second here, get Reese situated. All right. Our fourth and last hearing is in the matter of 2023-0371 petition the applicant is Saratoga County Airport. And let's, do we have the applicants here?
Yes, you do.
Okay. All right, state your name and your, how many of you are speaking for this application? Who is
I think there will be 2 speakers. There are 4 of us here.
Okay.
I can give everyone's name if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't you give us your name and your address for the court reporter? Let's get the names all taken care of.
Perfect. Turner Bradford. I'm with McFarland Johnson, 90 East Ave, Saratoga Springs, New York, 12866.
Okay. The other speaker?
Devin Shapley with McFarland Johnson. Shapley is Shapley. My address is 49 Court Street, Binghamton, New York, 13901.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Radford, do you want to go ahead, or Mr. Shapley, whoever would like to start, tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Sorry. Barbara, are you capable of pulling up? I did a very quick presentation that I can go through our project at a high level, and then what we are asking for variance. I apologize. I'm not able to WebEx in, but I did have a copy of it. We'll see how adept Barbara is.
I've never done this before, so give me a minute. File.
Yeah, do you want me to help you find it?
I got it. We are... Kingston, right? Yep. Kingston, finder. Okay. No, this is, are you sure this is it?
That is not it.
That is.
No,
No.
you can close that.
Where did that come from?
You can
Okay.
spell it.
Alright, we'll try this again.
If you go
are we
to the folder here.
Yep, I just had that. It's very strange.
Oh, it's that file. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Alright, so I have to share, well, I'm gonna have to share it this way, hold on. File, we're gonna share it. Is it this binder closing document?
No.
No.
It's inside the meeting presentation folder.
Oh, okay. That's what I did wrong, sorry.
Yeah,
Here we
and
go.
I don't know that you want to share the file. What I would like to do is have you open that file and share your screen.
Yep, that's what we're doing.
Okay. Is that, can you guys? All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Barbara. Now, are you going to be able to page through? Okay, wonderful. So if you go to the second page, I think we just did the introductions. So I have with me Chad Cook and Greg Ball, the Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner of the Saratoga DPW. They oversee the airport for the county. And you introduced myself and Devin. We can go to the next one. Okay, so very high level what our project is, and maybe just very quickly, the Saratoga County Airport is a general aviation airport, so it has no commercial service. So people fly their private planes. An FBO is a fixed base operator, and the simplest way I could explain that is a concierge for the airport. You fly your plane in, they service you as needed, they'll park your plane, they'll fuel your plane, bring you, organize a rental car or something to that effect. So what our project is there is an existing hangar at the airport. I believe it was originally constructed in 1976 as the terminal to the airport. We are going to demolish that building and construct a roughly 36,000 square foot terminal building that will have a terminal area for people and then a hangar that will be attached to that. Within the terminal, we'll have a passenger waiting area, the FBO, offices, pilot's lounge, car rental, restaurant, and a conference room. Attached to that will be roughly 20,000 square feet of a hangar that'll be 2 tilt-up doors to access the hangar. Then we'll do some exterior improvements that we're here really to talk about the hangar. So we can go to the next page, Barbara, thank you. So on the left is the existing condition. You can see sort of in the middle of the picture, hangar 1 to be demolished. On the right, our proposed condition gives you an idea of our new hangar or a new building with the 2 hangars and the terminal next to it. And if you go one more page, Barbara. Wonderful. So these are floor plans. On the left, the first floor. On the right, the second floor. And so what we are calling it.
Yeah, we're not getting the drawings. All we see was a white screen, white page.
Really? I see it.
It's not. WebEx.
I can see it remotely also. This is Dan Farley, Department of State. So it must be something in the Syracuse location.
Yeah, because
this is what it looks like in Syracuse in February, but
yeah.
Nice. Could you see the drawings with the aerial behind it?
No.
Well,
no, we're just getting a white sheet.
Can you go back one page? Can you see this?
No.
No.
we have your package if.
Okay.
Yeah, we have drawing. We have. Yeah, if you just.
Okay. So maybe go forward 2 pages.
6.
One more. Okay.
Do you see that?
I see that.
Nope.
You know, something happened with you guys because you saw it at the beginning, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know what happened. Something happened over there.
Okay.
Because Dan sees it. So.
All right.
We have all your exhibits,
yeah,
so
you
if
get
worst
the
case,
idea. The terminal area on the left, the hangar on the right. At this point, actually, I'll turn it over to Devin, who is our fire protection engineer, to just briefly describe the 2 areas and the variants that we are requesting.
Yeah. So as first stated, there is a terminal area on the left of the building. This area consists of 3 different occupancies, an A2 restaurant area, A3 waiting lobby area for passengers, and a business occupancy with office and some small assembly spaces such as conference rooms. This terminal area is separated by a 2-hour structurally independent firewall from the hangar area that is on the right side of the plans. The hangar is approximately just under 19,000 square feet. It's a Type 2B construction. And under the building code, it falls under S1 occupancy. However, under NFPA 409 for aircraft hangars, it is a Group 2 hangar. The variance we are requesting is for the omission of foam solution from the fire suppression system per the building code. Next slide. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. The building code section 412.3.6 of the building code requires that Group 2 hangars comply with NFPA 409 for fire suppression. However, the building code also offers an exception in that right above that table, which reads where a fixed-base operator, FBO, which this is, has separate repair facilities on site. Group 2 hangars operated by a fixed-base operator used for the storage of transient aircraft only shall have a fire suppression system, but the system is exempt from foam requirements. The Saratoga County currently does not have a tenant for this hangar, and therefore they cannot definitively classify the aircraft as transient at this time. It may or may not be transient. So as for the reason we're reaching out for this variance, there's a couple here. I will go through some, and Turner will go through some of the other. The first is it would create excessive and unreasonable economic burden With the addition of foam to the fire suppression system, it greatly increases the water demands that are required. Right now, the site does not have adequate water supply for a sprinkler system, so we are providing fire pumps and water storage tanks. If we do not have foam within the system and we were able to utilize the exception from the building code, it would require approximately 20,000 gallons of water storage. If the foam is required and installed, that water storage would go from 20,000 gallons to somewhere around 100,000 gallons. Additionally, with the addition of foam to the fire suppression system, we need to capture any liquid and foam that is discharged from the system into a containment tank. That containment tank would be much larger than 100,000 gallons, as it needs to be sized for the actual flow rate that the building would see. So it's a great increase on the systems that would need to be installed. Another point is that it is physically or legally impractical. There's major concerns, and I'm sure most of you have seen this with PFAS and AFFF foam, which this is, and the EPA has posted many findings on impacts, long-term impacts to health. And sorry, here I'm just pulling up our document. PFAS have been shown to cause serious health problems such as cancer, as well as negative impacts on aquatic and terrestrial organisms. The EPA has stated the goal of
Devin, I think the main. Sorry. The main concern here is that the town's water supply, their water supply wells are proximate to the airport. I think about a third of a mile away, and there are 3 of them, and I think the farthest one is less than a mile away, and we have sandy soil and in the area, and the geotech confirms this. It's about 100 feet to bedrock, all sand, and about 15 to 20 feet to groundwater. And the community's water supply wells are not far away, and we know from experience at other airports that PFAS into the water contaminates the water wells. There are drinking water levels, allowable levels of PFAS within drinking water. So that is a major concern. We know at this point that this airport has not had foam on it, has not had PFAS on it, and we don't want to introduce it. And then I guess I'll just keep going. Devin, you can jump in if there's anything you want to add. The last thing we just wanted to point out was some literature done by the University of Maryland. The Department of Fire Protection Engineering conducted a study in 2021 where they collected data of foam suppression systems in aircraft hangars from 2009 to 2018. And the synopsis is, in that time, I believe they got data from airports, airlines, the Department of Defense, and the National Guard, I believe, or Coast Guard. They documented 233 discharges of foam systems in aircraft hangars, and of those 233, 1 was a documented case caused by fire. And so the rest were either of unknown origin or accidental discharge. And those accidental discharges carry with them, a risk and a cost, sort of as mentioned above, with a known undesirable chemical. And I think that is those are the highlights of our request, and certainly I'm sure you guys have questions.
Oh, so you're still proposing to put a sprinkler system in the hangar?
Yes, we would still design the sprinkler system per the building code and NFPA 409, as we would on any other hangar where we would typically take the exception to remove foam.
Okay, well, you're in luck. NFPA beat you to it. The 22 version of NFPA 409, there is number 4, combination of automatic sprinkler protection in accordance with 8.2.4 and an ignitable liquid drainage floor assembly in accordance with 8.2.13. We've had one case that came before the board, which similar circumstances, they didn't want to use foam. And in lieu of that, they asked for relief by allowing them to use 409, the 2022 version, which has option 4 in it. Are you familiar with ignitable liquid drainage floor assemblies?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yep. They come with obviously there's a major cost impact from those assemblies, and you know typically we're looking at installing those in hangars that would there is no exception in a building code or anything like that for it, so there is no other code pathway.
Yeah, but it addresses the fuel issue with an aircraft fire, because if you have an aircraft on fire in a hangar and the fuel cells drop or fail, then the fuel lands on the floor, and that's why the foam goes out on the floor, goes over the product to suppress it. This actually allows the water and the fuel to actually go in the drain system to suppress the fire, and then it's pumped out into a storage system. It's the alternative to foam, and that's why it's there, because as in your case, you're not the only one that's facing this situation.
Correct.
And I expect it'll be the standard when the next code is adopted, that 409 the 2022 edition will be the standard that's used here. So is that something you want to offer to mitigation? Because I'm a little concerned about dumping a lot of water on a fuel fire from an aircraft that's, especially with the wings protecting the spill, where the water may not be able to suppress it quickly, and actually may just cause it worse by flowing water outside or around the building.
Okay. Do you anticipate the exception being removed from the building code at that point?
For
the transient exception that makes an
the only thing disqualifying us from this exemption is that the airport cannot classify the aircraft as transient because they don't know who the occupant will be yet.
So, I mean, you size it for the aircraft, the floor systems. So if you're only going to have CRJs in there, 50, 60 seat passengers, it's based on the potential of the aircraft. If you're going to put 737s or 777s or Galaxies, that they require different size systems. So it's not like one size fits all. It's a design based on what you expect from an aircraft. The problem I think for us is, presume it's transient, and we say, sure, it's going to be transient, but then all of a sudden you come back and you say, well, it's not transient, it's fixed. That's why when you're building a new facility, you plan for that potential as an option.
Okay.
Have you explored the unitable liquid drainage floor assemblies as far as, cost impact and those are systems you can retrofit them afterwards, but they're much easier and obviously more affordable if you do them now.
Yeah, correct. You can retrofit them. They are quite expensive. There's only one manufacturer, maybe two manufacturers at this point that have a listed system. So with a public bid job here that we have, that's of concern. There are no equals to the Safe Spill as the manufacturer that offers it right now. So and like you mentioned before, the system captures the fuel and water and then pumps it out into a containment tank. So containment again increases substantially. So we are aware of the product and the cost. So
if you were to go ahead and declare on your building permit, your drawings and plans and intentions that it's a transient hangar, you don't need a variance.
Correct.
So I guess my question is, if you're looking to move from our side, that's a pretty big difference and change. And the safety measure right now, nothing's being offered to say, we don't know what's going to happen, so we would just like the system to not exist, versus we don't know what's going to happen, but in case the non-transient option happens, we're going to do this instead to make it as safe. And so it's one of those, you're asking for relief, but not giving any mitigation to mitigate that risk on us giving the variance. So from my perspective, if you have a DAO, either you design it to the highest risk, which is that they are non-transient, so your project should be contemplated, bid, and built that way. Or you make it transient and have to deal with the change of occupancy in the future and potentially be modifying your new building.
That's the one piece about an FBO in the Northeast. Most of the FBOs are used longer than 30 days, or longer than 90 days. So, I mean, just because of the winter months, if you get a company that's bringing charter aircraft in and they're using your FBO to store them just for convenience of clients, whether they're going, up north to go skiing or in the summertime going to the races, it's hard to sit there and say, well, the FBO will only be a transient 90-day, not without knowing. The other alternative would be, you build all the pieces that you need to do an in-floor system, and then if you cross that path, then you have it all built. You just don't put it all together. You'd have to have some way of controlling drainage and everything else. But again, maybe it's a plan ahead. How would you support it if you were to retrofit it after you built the building? Going with the presumption that, you're not going to have but a transient storage.
Understood. Turner, do you have anything to offer?
No, I think I understand the conversation, and I think we've made our points, and I appreciate the board's input.
We can deny the variance and move on, or we could grant you the variance when you don't have a 90-day that you can use option 4, or when the time comes, you come back to us again because maybe the state code hasn't got to adopt option 4 as part of the code yet. Because I think we're still, Mr. Collier, correct me, what are we, 18 months away before the next code's adopted? Yeah, 18 months away. So you may need that, that option sooner. But speaking for myself, I can't see supporting an aircraft hangar that's going to have non-transit aircraft without whether it's foam or this system. This system was created just to get out of the foam business for a lot of carriers.
And I'm sorry, can you explain you said 90 days? What?
I think that's isn't that the code? It's in the code.
The definition of transient aircraft.
It's 90 days. Maybe I misread the code.
That's in the determination of if it's transient or non-transient. the aircraft has to live in that hangar for 90 days or more, or in excess of 90 days. So for transient, that aircraft's home base for maintenance and repair and everything is elsewhere. So if they don't have tenants that are going to be letting these aircraft live in those two hangars for more than 90 days in a year, then...
Well, that's what I just explained, because some familiar with FBOs, most of them have aircraft that's in there, and they may take them out, go for a flight, but that's their base of operation. That's what the company pays for, is to have especially in the wintertime. It's a hangar situation. Nobody wants their aircraft out in cold weather. So in the Northeast, most FBOs are non-transient. Maybe in the South, where they drive in, drive out, all they're parked outside. But in the wintertime, most big space operators, that's why they want the hangars. It's from October through April. It's pretty much when they're not flying, they're in a base.
Sure. So I'm sorry. Can we just run through the options here again? It would be you deny the variance would be option 1. Option 2 would be that we modify the variance to be the adoption of the current NFPA.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. We allow you to use NFPA 409, the 2022 version for 2022 edition for fire protection systems of this building. We're not trapping you into one or the others. You got any of them?
I'm just trying to talk through and understand it here. And sorry. So those are essentially the two options here right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any other options. I mean, speaking for myself, I'll look at my colleagues. I don't see anybody voting for a variance.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay.
We want to give you as much. It's better for us to give you a decision that gives you the most latitude, and you can decide how you're going to do it. The state's code enforcement official in Saratoga. It's Department of State. Who's the code enforcement?
It is the Department of State. That is correct.
It's Karen, but she's not here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Department of State's the code enforcement official. And you're familiar because Department of State's overseeing Griffiths, which is the other facility that we granted a variance for, which has much larger aircraft than what you're going to be putting in there.
And so, I mean, it sounds like you want to think about it. If you guys have the time, we can always adjourn your case and not make a decision today and come back next month and talk through it after you have some time to run some budgets or look at stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have to make, unless you want a decision today.
No, I would very much appreciate that. If that's the course of action we can take, that would be wonderful. I would appreciate that.
You want to adjourn?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay, and you can come back at a later time if you want. Again, if you were to make a decision, I think pretty much
I get it.
room.
No, you guys, very helpful. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. I just encourage you to talk to other FBOs and think about how it is. Saratoga is like the community I come from. It's up and growing, and we're getting a lot more aircraft that are being based in our community that are using the FBO, and just part of the nature of a booming economy. And I think your area is the same as the area I come from.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to make a motion to adjourn this case to a later date, and you can just let Mr. DiTullio or Mr. Collier know when you want to come back. And if we don't hear I guess I don't know that we want to leave this open forever. So do you have an idea when you're going to?
No, you will have a course of action from us, certainly before your next meeting.
Okay.
We need to decide how we're going to proceed. So we have a ticking clock. So there will be direction from us one way or another.
Like I said, you don't need a variance if you're going to stick with this as transient. but I would encourage you to build the infrastructure to be able to support the system. So if that's the place where you have to go, you're not going to be burdened with extra costs. It's already built into your systems. Okay.
Understood.
Very good. All right. So a motion to adjourn this hearing to a later month.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this hearing.
Mr. Garlick, do I have a second?
Second.
Swistak seconds. Hold the board, Mr. Hinderleiter.
Aye.
Swistak.
Aye.
Mr. Garlick. Chair votes aye. 4 ayes, no nays to adjourn this hearing. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye. And that's our last case. Thank you, Mr. Hubbard.
Oh, you're welcome.
And we can go off the record. Thank you.
Yep, and I have us off the record.